Okay, let's go.
Hey guys, all right? Welcome everyone. The year is 1990. In a moment before the Great War, we see Chris, who is solving a super difficult exam prepared just for him. The teacher supervising him is amazed that he finished so quickly. His sister Michelle is there too, and leaves with him. She comments that Albert Einstein took 3 days to complete that same exam and praises her younger brother's intelligence. But Chris shows he doesn't want to go to college, saying he only took that exam due to his parents' insistence. Michelle comforts him and says she will always be by his side, no matter what happens. Until that year, robots were part of humanity's daily life, doing jobs that humans could not or simply did not want to do. One day, they claimed their rights, not wanting to be mere servants. A robot advertising leader named Peanut gave a speech to hundreds of others of his kind, calling them to the streets to protest that they could decide their own fate, being the first robot to have revolutionary ideas. For humans, robots are just machines. However, such creations showed to have consciousness, and in a peaceful manner, they asked for their rights, just as humans have theirs. For many days, not being heard, some robots from the rebellious society caused public disturbances, and the military even confronted them to force them back to work. However, such a front was not heeded, and consequently, the government initiated a war against all machines and declared that any human who helped to hide a robot would be considered a traitor to their country. For 2 years, the battle stretched on, and humans never succeeded in stopping them. However, one day, scientist Ethan Skate, CEO of Sentient, revolutionized the world. He created an object known as the neural projector, a technology that connected the human mind to a motorized being. Thus, military forces matched with the robots, and using armors guided by an individual, they managed to win the war, capturing large robots and destroying those that did not surrender. Peanut signed a surrender agreement, and over 6,000 robots were taken to a fully fenced exclusion area in the desert, where they remained confined under Sentry's surveillance. Scientist Ethan also made such technology with the aim for the people using it to be in 2 places at once. Such technology became popular and is already in use in various places around the world. The year is now 1994, and young Michelle, who has been taken to a foster home, tries to remove a device from her ankle but can't. The drone robot, guided by her adoptive father, named Ted, opens the bedroom door, warning that she has to do extra activities. But Michelle doesn't really care about him, as her mental self is having fun in Las Vegas, thanks to the device created by scientist Ethan. The young girl heads to school, where neural projectors are mandatory, but she doesn't like using the technology. The principal calls her in for a talk and asks if she needs to call her parents. However, she sees in the records that young Michelle lost her family during the war in a car accident, where unfortunately only she survived. Later, Michelle wakes up upon hearing something in the yard, and when she goes to check, she discovers a robot there. Scared, she runs to Ted, but he is asleep. She hides, seeing the shadow of the robot entering the house, and observes it wandering near her. But soon the robot finds her. However, it does not want to harm her. Michelle asks what it wants, and it, picking up the photo of her and her brother, says it is Chris, and using catchphrases, says they can be friends and together defeat the rock monster. The robot shows a desire to be like her brother in the photo, but Michelle, not believing, pushes it away. At that moment, Ted wakes up and is soon surprised to see the visitor. Ted, thinking Michelle is hiding the robot, pushes her, and the robot, not liking that, goes for him. They end up in a small confrontation, and Ted gets hurt, where he immediately calls the police. However, Michelle neutralizes him with a taser before he can report anything. Even not knowing her new friend well, Michelle grabs her backpack and gets into Ted's car, and the robot destroys the device on her ankle. Ted, the robot, tries to catch them, but the two escape from him. Sometime later, they stop after a tire blows out, and then Michelle asks who that robot really is. Her questions and his answers indicate that the robot is actually her brother, who is still alive somewhere controlling it remotely. Robot Chris says he does not know where his real self is, but has a connection to Sentry. He says that who can tell something is a doctor who wears glasses. Remembering the day of the accident, Michelle had a conversation with the doctor, and he reported that her parents and brother had died. Robot Chris points on the map and says they can find answers there. However, Michelle says that the place is where the robots were imprisoned. Seeing a packet that came from the robot zone, Michelle realizes that the sender knows how to get in. So with hope of finding her brother, she and her friend hop on a train and head to New Mexico to find this person. Later, after buying food, she and her robot brother hide behind some trash cans. Then a truck arrives, and a man gets out and goes to a safe cabinet, taking some money. His name is Keats. A business associate of his arrives in a robot to receive a delivery that came from the exclusion zone. Keats hands over an ancient weapon to the guy and says that the delivery costs $15,000. However, now having the weapon, the man says he will not pay and threatens to shoot Keats. However, the man's robot is electrocuted and falls to the ground, powered off. The one who fired was Herman, a pure robot, friend of Keats. They take the robot to another place while Michelle and her brother sneak into the truck's bed unnoticed. Meanwhile, the Colonel's robot named Marshall analyzes Ted's vehicle and discovers clues as to where the fugitive might be. Keats arrives at his destination in the morning, an abandoned place that serves as his hideout. They unload some boxes, noting their strange weight. The companionship of the two is quite friendly, with the robot Herman playing pranks, like turning off the fridge and spoiling all of Keats' food. While the two argue about what happened, Michelle and Chris emerge from the box. They make noise, and Keats with his companion go to check the place. Both surround the intruders, and questioning them, discover they are also going to the exclusion zone. Keats warns the young girl that the place is not a picnic zone, and that she would die if she were alone there. Suddenly, the elevator moves, alerting the hosts about more possible intruders. Keats asks Herman to take Chris while he makes a plan with Michelle. The one who descends in the elevator is the Colonel's robot Marshall. He is a robot deactivation agent and comes in talking about his mission. He came to arrest Michelle, talking about her offenses and aiding an enemy of the state, leaving Keats surprised. The agent suspects Keats, who keeps babbling to draw his attention. However, when his robot friend shoots the electricity, the Colonel blocks the attack with Keats' body. He then uses his more powerful robot destruction weapon, narrowly missing the machines. Michelle helps them and soon turns off the lights, as she observed it could be done with clapping. This buys them the necessary time to hide. Keats tries to shoot at robot Marshall, but that does not solve anything and ends up getting captured. However, Michelle appears and begs the agent not to hurt the man. Luckily, as a team, Michelle lures the agent to a place where Herman drops a heavy hook on him, buying time for their escape. However, the clumsy Keats has many keys and takes time finding the one that turns on the underground rail. This hinders the escape, and Marshall breaks free and destroys the rail. Fortunately, the robots work together and corner robot Marshall so Michelle can pin him against the tunnel wall and deactivate him. Unfortunately, the only exit was destroyed, leaving Keats furious, as now they would be trapped there, since the place was built to prevent anything inside from getting out. The group takes shelter, while a butcher robot destroys other robots to take their parts. While Keats opens one of his sheds, Michelle says that the robot with her is her brother, and that she came looking for her human brother, who unfortunately does not know where he is. But there is a doctor who knows, as he likely delivered him to Sentient. However, his location is very far, being on Tabletop Mountain. After entering the shed, Keats activates a large armor for the mini-robot that can guide him. To make transportation more comfortable, they are taken in a van driven by the now huge Herman. Along the way, Michelle sees the trail of destruction from the war and the robots. Keats, conversing with her, recounts how he met Herman. He was in the war and was a soldier, but wounded and about to die. He saw Big Herman looking at him, and the robot simply lifted him and took him away, proving that not all robots are evil. Meanwhile, Ethan talks to his mother, but it is only a neural hologram that is still being tested. He observes the neural connection data from around the world and realizes that it is not going according to his plans, so he summons his scientists. The scientists tell the CEO that his prodigy Chris has left, not physically, but neurologically. They use the young man's mind as the basis for their studies and neural data gains, but now without him, Sentry will crash and collapse in a week. Concerned about the fate of his company, Ethan summons a meeting with Marshall to give him a new mission. He wants to destroy the robot that Michelle has in her possession, but Ethan says first he will bring it to Sentry, and then he can complete his job since his army cannot enter the zone due to the peace treaty signed with the government. Marshall agrees, and then his robot is reactivated. In the exclusion zone, the group reaches a location where in the distance there seem to be abandoned buildings, but the place is not empty. A large robot throws a refrigerator at them, and trying to escape the attack, Herman is hit in the mechanical leg and falls, knocking over the van in the process. The group is captured by the area robots and taken inside the site. They meet leader Peanut, who ordered the group to be attacked because he thought they were the butchers. Not wasting time, Michelle says they came in search of a doctor, and then Peanut takes them to show them around the place he calls Blue Cove, a place where robots are welcome and can live freely, without humans telling them what to do, and can choose what they want to be. While Keats goes to eat something, Michelle talks to Peanut about her brother. He says he met the doctor she is looking for. His name is Clark Amherst, a specialist in human-machine interaction, but he sent him away. Keats becomes upset, for the only one who knew how to leave the zone was thrown into the desert. Peanut says he would not let their survival depend on that doctor, and will not allow new invaders to do the same. Michelle becomes upset over the lack of help and decides to continue alone with her robot brother. Keats follows her and convinces her to stay there that night. Later, Michelle remembers the conversation she had with her super-intelligent brother. He was just spending time with his family since he was attending college, even at his young age. His sister always supported him and said he would change the world. In the early morning, the group is awakened by a police robot who says he has a letter from Clark for Chris, where it states for him to meet him at the address written. Peanut overheard the conversation, but decides to help this time. The destination they are going to is an area of butchers, so they will need reinforcements. They prepare for departure, unaware that they are being watched. Later, they arrive at the location, and it's already night. At the exact spot, the group sees no sign of life, but suddenly, butchers wake up to attack the group. They all fight back and run, until they reach what appears to be a door, but it isn't really, so they end up being cornered. Fortunately, a strong green light illuminates and music begins to play, activating flamethrowers. Then the group falls into a compartment and ends up in Dr. Clark's laboratory. He recognizes Michelle and is happy to see robot Chris, affirming that it worked. Michelle quickly confronts him and asks where her brother is, and Clark says he is at Sentry's headquarters in Seattle. When asked why he took Chris, the doctor calls his robot computer, named PC, which has been reprogrammed to be a version of himself, as it stores everything he knows. He replies that the young boy, after the accident, underwent tests, and it was found he was the human the company was looking for. So being in a coma with the possibility of never waking up, Sentry did what they thought was best for the company. The computational processing to achieve what they were looking to accomplish could not be achieved, but with Chris's mind, it was possible quickly. Something quite cruel, as they used his mind as a guinea pig in exchange for keeping him alive. However, several months later, the young man regained consciousness. Not agreeing with what Sentry was doing, the doctor established a connection from Chris's mind to an external world, since there was no way his body could leave the installation. Michelle says she will rescue her brother and that the doctor will help them, whether he likes it or not. Suddenly, the sensors alerted to Marshall's presence, and the group hurried to leave. The agent bursts into the place looking for the group and the robots when the electricity system is activated, and Peanut appears to confront him, thus buying time for the others. The group outside faces more agents and is forced to fight back. Keats and his two robot helpers destroy 3 of them, while Michelle and Chris find themselves surrounded. Fortunately, with the doctor's help, she escapes from her oppressors. On the other hand, Peanut faces the enemy Marshall, but ends up defeated. More agents arrive at the location, and Marshall corners the siblings and Clark. To buy time for the two to escape, the doctor steps in front of him, knowing that the controlled robot is not permitted to harm a human. However, using another, Ethan fatally shoots the doctor. With not much to do, Michelle loses her brother again, who is taken away by Sentry's robots. However, before they can take Michelle as well, Marshall shoots the robot holding her and leaves without harming her. At dawn, the group returns to the Blue Cove and finds the place destroyed, with many robots dismantled. Chris is taken back to headquarters, where his real body is. Ethan welcomes him and orders them to connect him again. Marshall, however, questions the scientist, as he hadn't informed him of the reality of his mission. But Ethan doesn't care what he thinks. Michelle approaches PC and asks for his help to go to Sentry headquarters and invade the place to rescue Chris. However, PC states this cannot happen, as the company's network is connected to his brain, and without it, the controlled robots will not work. Nevertheless, this is what Michelle wants, and with the robots, they will be able to destroy the real enemy. Keats, who cut his hair, says he will help her, and Peanut will also support the idea. So the group prepares and 3 trucks leave the zone, thanks to Clark's version's knowledge. Days later, the Sentra building is attacked by Little Herman, who is in an 18-meter construction robot armor. The controlled robots are activated and pursue Keats and Herman, while Michelle and PC enter the building. The giant robot ends up being taken down by a bomb robot, but the 2 are still fine and attract the agents to where all the other robots that decided to come help are. The attack begins and a battle between machines controlled by humans against pure robots starts. Inside the installation, Ethan goes to the weapons room and Marshall follows him. Michelle and PC plan something and enter the room, threatening to destroy the humans present. This frightens the scientists, who flee the place out of fear. Michelle asks if they can communicate with her brother, but PC says only through the neural network. Meanwhile, seeing that his robots are taking a beating, Ethan connects to his personal robot, a machine larger than conventional ones, and more destructive. At another point in the battle, Marshall enters the fight, not against the robots, but stating where Ethan is. He claims to have left his duties behind, for he found someone less human than a robot. He then disconnects his connection with the machine. Michelle finally puts on the neural projector and enters a virtual reality where she finds her home. She goes inside, and there she heads to her brother. They talk, and Chris reveals he does not want to leave there, for he has seen the evil his existence has done to the world. However, he states that she cannot take him away, as without him, Sentry will be undone and he will die, for the connection he has is something like a symbiote, where if separated, he dies. Chris, knowing that the choices will be difficult, tells Michelle that she will have to turn him off forever. Ethan's robot knocks down Big Herman, preventing him from getting up again. Herman still tries to fight one of the robots but gets injured in the fight. Then Ethan is alerted that the laboratory has been invaded, but it is too late for him, as Robot Peanut is already there to stop him. However, he wants to renegotiate the treaty of the agreement. Michelle in the neural connection is confronted by her brother to turn him off, but she refuses to do so. However, her brother convinces her, saying that it is necessary for the greater good. Regretting the decision she has to make, she disconnects and then approaches Chris. With a heavy heart, she shuts him down, and at the same time the robots are shut down, and the entire Sentry network is lost. Herman is down on the battlefield, and Keats mourns the loss, but fortunately, there is still one smaller Herman inside the fallen carcass. The next scene shows Keats seeing the sad Michelle next to her deceased brother. Days later, Ethan is finally arrested for experimenting on humans. Michelle makes a live video statement to everyone, asking people to return to living as before, putting aside the desire to have a connected life, as real experiences with those by their side are incredible. In the end, we see Chris's robot being thrown into the rubble as if it were no longer useful. However, his reflection is seen in the water, showing that Chris's mind remains